I would drink in my room after she would go to sleep.
You have an addiction that was killing you.
The team of doctors say, Will, you have 2 weeks to live.
I wanted to have you on because I want people to hear this message.
Unfiltered with Matt Farnsworth.
I'm with Will Gordon. Will, this is nuts. I found you on Instagram, and I couldn't believe that you were a double transplant survivor. So kidney, liver. You have an addiction that was literally on the verge of killing you. I don't think many people have heard a message like this. It's unique. You're young, and you have struggled with addiction, and you've come out the other side. Tell me a little bit about, let's go right in. Let's just dive right in. You're Irish Catholic, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Your family, Boston.
Yep, Boston, yeah.
You grew up in a family of 4. You're the youngest?
I was the youngest of 4 boys. Okay. Super competitive family, man. Yeah, like crazy competitive, like athletics-wise, yeah.
And you are, you became an addict young, or how did that, when was the first time this sort of happened? Let's give people a baseline.
Sure.
People, this is about addiction. This is alcohol, and addiction is addiction. You know, it all has the same root, but how did that all start for you?
Yeah, man. Well, Matt, let me just first and foremost say thank you so much for inviting me on your show. I love what you do, and your story is just so remarkably incredible, and I'm really glad that you're still here with us, buddy. Yeah, man. So basically from the jump, I think I've been an alcoholic my entire life since the age of 14. I'm not going to lie. The second it touched my lips, Matt, something changed in me. You know, all these years of insecurity and living in a skin that just didn't feel right. You know, that's how I always word it, is I was living in skin that just didn't feel like it fit right. And I was searching for love, connection, empathy, all that good stuff. And I really wasn't getting it at home, right? Because of the strict Irish Catholic upbringings and, you know, do the right thing when no one's looking, get good grades, you know, be the best in the class, blah, 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 right? But there's a lot of shame and guilt built into that, if you know what I'm saying. There's a lot of underpinnings of kind of like shame and guilt built into it. And as much as I admired my father, he was a great father. He really was. He didn't necessarily show the most emotion, and my mother on the same end of it. So I was constantly seeking validation, constantly seeking connection. And yeah, once I had that first sip of alcohol, man, it was just, I want to feel like this forever, because I feel like it's my true authentic self. And that was the first time I got to feel that way ever. So
yeah,
pretty
powerful
powerful
shame.
stuff.
It took away the all the feelings that you were needing and wanting. It sort of filled that void.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I've been there. 14 years old was when I had my first drink as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And it did everything. It took care of all the problems that I had. So your family integrated alcohol into life. Like that was part of family life.
It was my mother did not. My mother was a very rare drinker. She would drink wine every now and then. But my father, holy cow. Yeah. He was quite a big name around here. He was a Hall of Fame hockey coach, a seasoned teacher, history. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm the history teacher. He was a earth science, physics, and all that good stuff. But yeah, it was woven into the culture of our home. I would see my dad drink 2-3 Manhattans every night from the age of 5, 6, 7 years old. I just thought alcohol was what you did when you had a bad day. You know, I just thought it was that thing that just made a person relax, feel like make him more joyful. I don't know, because in my early memories, they really weren't necessarily bad. They would get bad when fights would erupt or financial issues would come to a head, right? Much similar to my own story as we get down into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Your dad, is he still with us?
He passed away in 2024. Yeah. He was a huge part of my story, actually. He was right there with me every step of the way through the whole liver transplant process, the kidney transplant process. And when I was healing from the liver transplant, my stomach ruptured. And they had to do an emergency ileostomy surgery, which I had for 6 months, which saved my life. I had a 4% chance of making it through the night, and I actually did. By the grace of God, and my dad was right there when I woke up. So yeah, he was a huge part of this journey, and I think he got it from the perspective of an alcoholic. I think he got it because he was one himself, and he could see the suffering and pain in my eyes, knowing that his own son. So a lot to unpack there, but in an interesting little side note to my whole journey, you know.
Did your dad ever quit drinking?
Oh no,
Did
no,
it take
I
him?
don't remember
Was it-
him. I don't remember him ever stopping drinking.
Was it, part of the complications that he had and why he passed away?
You know, it's funny, Matt. It's like, yeah, I know what it was because I saw it firsthand. But if you were to say that same thing to my mother or my cousins or my relatives or brothers, even, I don't know if they would necessarily agree with me.
Still in denial a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people, even in my family, everything that I had, everything I underwent with the whole transplant process was, a lot of them are having a tough time realizing, like, how do I deal with Will now? Like, how do I talk to him, right? Like, after going through something so traumatic and invasive.
Hey, that's tough. When I first got sober, I was sober for 11 years, then I relapsed, and within 6 months, you know my story, I flipped a car 6 times, broke my neck, I died for 3 minutes. And then I had to get really, like, not just sober, but emotionally well. Mm-hmm. And I had to cut so many people out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You can't keep the same people, places, and things going.
No.
But when you were young, when you started 14, we were there, you progressively, obviously, got much worse. You were able to drink until you were, I'd see, 35 years old, is when you had this breakdown of your body where your organs failed. What happened over those years? So you've got 14, got 20 years there you're looking at.
Right.
How did it progress? I know high school, you probably partied and stuff like that, but when did it become that moment where you've gone through college, you've made it through? What happened? Was there any repercussions during that time besides the health issues that you were going through? DUIs, anything happen?
Oh yeah, Matt. Yeah. The writing was on the wall in college. I had a fake ID when I was 18. I looked like a lot of people, and going back to the story, me being the youngest brother of 4, you'll find your older brothers having friends who look a lot like your little brother. So I was buying beers at 18 for the entire high school. I was the one that would buy the beer balls, the kegs, everything. I would show up. I was the party guy. It was fun. It was a great time. I got like more popular because of it. I fit into more cliques. Like I just did more things. And I was invited to more stuff. So all that insecurity and social worth that I was craving was now laid upon right in front of my feet with alcohol. And with the idea to buy it all it just exponentially made it worse. So then once I saw a pattern happening in college, I noticed that my 8 and 9 a.m.s were a little too early. I was getting a little too hungover for those. So I had to push those back. Mm-hmm. That would keep happening. It would get later and later. My junior year, I remember I had one class at like 1 p.m. Like that's because I could not get up before that. So I knew there was an issue. I didn't know how far it would take me. But one night I didn't want to get a parking ticket because I was so broke. So I moved my car after the bar from store 24 to my apartment. And there was a campus police. He was watching the whole thing. He saw me park. I got out of the car, and he could see, right away he could tell I was buzzed. Granted, I wasn't like going like a million miles an hour down like the Route 95. No, it wasn't anything like that. But it was still drinking and driving, DUI, and wow,
still
was
fast enough to get pulled over.
Yeah, fast enough, or to kill someone. Right? It doesn't matter. So, and it was an unforgivable thing, and something that I regret to this day. I really do. But I blew a .20 or .21, something like that. So double the legal limit. Or whatever it was.
Dude, that is really high.
Yes. It was right from the bar. I literally had like a big mojito drink, Scorpion Bowl, I think it was, and it hasn't even hit yet. So by the time they did the breathalyzer, it like my BAC was like as high as it could be. Man, that was the first moment where I really got in trouble. I let my father down, let my family down. I embarrassed myself. I had to go do like a 6-week amethyst program up in New Hampshire. Oh my God! Talk about like not living up to your expectations as a friend, as a son, as a human. And then, but I did kind of learn my lesson. I slowed the drinking down. I got my shit together, so to speak. And then I was like, okay, what do I want to do with my life? I want to be a teacher, just like my father. So I got into teaching really young. First job I ever had was a teacher, substitute teacher at my old high school. But it was okay. I was a little weird to be back in the high school with the old teachers I used to have and everything. So I went to a different school. taught there for a year, but I was noticing a pattern. I wasn't like getting fired, but I was noticing I wasn't getting rehired. And
So you're drinking.
You nailed it, Matt. All
Yeah.
of drinking, man. My potential was there. They could see that I was a good teacher. I was crushing it when they would come to observe me, but I wasn't following up with like the workload. I was, because of the alcohol, I was so stressed from the job, stressed from like I thought this job would be like, I thought I'd feel like whole when I got it. And be like, my dad would be proud, but he never said that. It was like all these things I was hoping he would say. And like, I would finally get the validation I was craving so badly. And I didn't get it. And it made me hate the job and resent the job. So I drank more and more, and I taught for another like 10 years or so, a couple of years on and off, like really quitting the booze. Like 2013, 14, 15, I was crushing it. I wasn't really drinking. I was doing well at work. And those were the best 3 years of teaching I had. Go figure, right? But then I met my wife. I met my wife in 2016. We married in 2018. And then for some reason, 2019, 2020, with the COVID, and when it hit, it really it just got out of control. And then I was drinking purposely to like hurt myself, to almost end my life. I ballooned up to about 270 pounds. My skin was paper thin. I had varicose veins just bulging out. My skin was yellow, eyes jaundiced. I was a dying man, and my wife said, okay, well, time to go. You got to go in, man. You got to go check yourself out. She definitely didn't say man. She was really mad at me. And there's so many backstories to our relationship and how tumultuous that was, going through that process of someone drinking that much, which was a half a handle every day, if not, sometimes a whole handle, really going for it. Which
you're
is
functioning though. I mean, you're able to like still stay. You're so addicted that you're like functioning, and now it's just survival. Like if you don't have it, your body, you're gonna go into DTs. You're gonna have seizures.
I was doing those things. Yeah, man. I was doing those things. I would wake up with the shakes. Like I couldn't control the shakes. I would fall down the steps. I would get hepatic encephalopathy, which is like the brain fog. I would look at like dark eyes every morning. I would have to throw up. Yeah, man. If you would have looked,
I can't even tell what race you are.
Yeah, that's what people say. They're like, you look like a completely different human being, and
it's nuts.
I agree with them. Yeah.
When you said you went to this when you got the DUI, you went to a program for 6 weeks. Was that inpatient?
Yeah, it was like inpatient, but it was like drunk school. It was like drunk school. It wasn't like an inpatient medical. They weren't like taking my vitals or anything like that. It was like drunk school. Like, okay, here's a college kid. He has an issue. We're going to put him into a school for like whatever, how many weeks, I think it was 6. And they're going to sleep together. They're going to learn about like the dangers of alcohol. And it was just all ass backwards. Like the stuff that they were teaching us was not relevant. It was all dated, antiquated. It just didn't resonate whatsoever with anyone who was 19 or 20. So I left that 6-week camp being more pissed and wanting to drink more.
Okay.
Never drive again, but wanting to just like screw this. This is unbelievable. Like I can't believe this. Which is so juvenile and very immature. But I was juvenile and I was immature. So there you go, right? You don't know until you don't know. But yeah,
so you drank after you left. You're like, okay, I'm going to drink. So you're like, after college, this is like probably like 21, 22, and then you continue to drink. You become a teacher. You meet your wife in what year?
2016, I met her, and in 18, we got married.
How'd you meet her?
We met on Tinder, believe it or not. She was an au pair from Brazil, and we just linked up and fell in love like immediately. She is the reason why I'm still alive. Like I say that constantly, but she is the reason why I'm still here. You know, she was advocating for me. She was dropping me off at AA meetings. She was taking care of me, you know, when I was falling down, puking, had blood in my whatever, everything. I would fall into walls. Like she would pick me up. She would drop me off of ERs. Like this woman was, when I say unconditional love, and that word gets thrown around a lot, she really embraces it, you know, to the fullest, highest degree that there is.
Is she a person of faith?
She is. Yeah, we both are.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That makes a difference.
It sure does. Yeah.
You are falling down. All these things are happening. She's taking care of you. You're going to AA meetings. You were attempting to get sober.
Oh, I wanted to be a sober person, Matt. That was my goal. That was my dream, was to wake up and feel just satisfied in my own skin. I was constantly craving that. I was just hoping, praying, just for an answer, just a reason, just a little bit of help. And I didn't know. I wasn't ready. I couldn't hear it. I was so physically addicted, mentally addicted, emotionally addicted, everything you can imagine when it comes to being all encompassing. Alcohol was just all encompassing every aspect of my life. And it was testing my marriage to the highest level that it could be tested. And my wife,
alcohol's up here. It's number one.
Yep.
Then you've got wife, family,
Yeah.
work, whatever it may be. But alcohol is top. It's incredible when we see alcoholics and addicts in any respect, how we function when we are in the addiction. The brain that we have and the cycle that we're in, anybody can tell us you should stop. Everybody can see the mess that we're in, but for some reason, it's the brain that got us addicted that can't get us out. We don't see anything else but the chemical. That's all we see. It's really a strange phenomenon. I've tried to figure that out for some time, and I've come down to the realization that there has to be oftentimes a bottom for an alcoholic. It's very rare that you'll find somebody that just decided to quit because their car got towed.
Yeah. I always explain
usually
to people like, sorry to interrupt you there.
No,
like an elevator, like an elevator is going down no matter what. And you can decide to get off on whatever floor you want to get off on, but eventually it will hit the bottom, right? It will hit the ground level. So that's how I look at the rock bottom situation. I unfortunately did have to hit the bottom level and almost die, but you don't have to. People listening, watching, like you really don't. It's just a decision that you have to make. However, when you are drinking, the part that's telling you to stop drinking, that part of your brain is being turned off every time you have a drink. So if you just are deciding to get sober, make sure you're sober when you're making these rational decisions, and don't try to do it when you have like a buzz going, because it's just gonna, like, again, that button has been pushed off. So it's really difficult to try to maintain drinking while you're trying to be a person in recovery, which is different than a person in sobriety.
It's a really sick chemical, alcohol, because it's the only drug that fixes the hangover.
Right, the hair of the dog, right? I said that was my move, a Bloody Mary on a Sunday morning, like as early as I could get it.
It really does. It's the only thing that makes you feel better, and that's scary. And it's also the only, addiction is really that type of, disease, we call it, that tells you don't have it, which I believe AA works because of that. You remind yourself in the early stages of AA, I'm an alcoholic. And that really is what works. It's that structure, I think, that first gets you in the door and you're like able to tell your story. And as you tell your story, which yours became pretty profound, but it doesn't sound like you became sober using Alcoholics Anonymous until you hit the bottom. So you're in this thing, you're going nuts with alcohol to the point you end up in a hospital. Your liver and kidneys both failed at 35.
Yeah.
What did that conversation with the doctors sound like?
Well, back in 2020, that was the first time I got detoxed, and I'll never forget it. I walked in lying to the doctors right away, and I said, I have a stomach issue. I'm going to the bathroom. It might be a GI issue. Doctor took 2 looks at me. He knew it was up. He's like, sure, we'll do some labs. Comes back with a full CBC panel, and CBC panel, and he's like, "Wow, well, your bilirubin levels." And I had no idea at that juncture in my life what bilirubin levels were, or the markers that show signs of liver damage, such as like ALT, AST, albumin, some things like that. And I had no idea, but they were so highly elevated, it was insane. Like the guy said, this is the liver of someone who's well into their 50s and 60s, and you already have hepatitis of the liver. That's what I walked in there with in 2020. But he said, with abstinence, it's not cirrhosis yet. So with abstinence, you can actually reverse this. And I said, okay, great. So they detoxed me. I was there for a week. And then the aftercare, which is what drives me crazy. I'm a huge proponent of aftercare in sobriety, because if you don't have someone advocating for you or looking out on your behalf, you will slip. Just from personal experiences, I'm not saying that's 100% of the time. Everyone's different. But from my personal point of view, I do. That's what I noticed the most. So he said, okay, just stay sober. So he's like, what are you going to do? I go, I'll go to AA. And that was it. Goodbye. No following up. No, nothing like that. Even though there's this kid I was 32 at the time. Kid, I was an adult, 32 at the time. And, but he told me all those things and he said, get sober. So I did. I listened. I said, okay, I'm going to white knuckle this. So I white knuckled sobriety for about 125 days, actually 125 days exactly. But my life didn't get better. I was a dry drunk, as they say. I was someone who was not embracing my recovery. I was someone who was still really in denial and angry that I couldn't enjoy it anymore with like friends and stuff like that. So I was going about it all the wrong way. I would go to AA meetings and I would be like mad the entire time. I would be like, how come I can't connect to anyone? How come I can't like just see a perspective that will change my perspective? Like, what is going on? So I was really just in a bad place. And then my life wasn't changing. It was actually kind of getting worse. Like the fights with my wife were just amplified because I was sober and I was like filled with rage and anxiety. And I needed that alcohol to calm me down, but I didn't have it anymore. So that crutch. So what happens when you have a boiling point and you're shaking that bottle for so long? It's going to burst eventually. So we had one of the biggest fights. It was over money, like it usually typically was. I wasn't bringing enough home. Like rent was too high, blah, 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 XYZ. And I heard a stupid ad I'm a huge hockey fan. So I heard this ad from this hockey player that I listened to his podcast. He just released like a new, not that strong vodka. It was like a 30% percentage or whatever. It's called the Pink Whitney. I'm like, I love pink lemonade. I love that. You know what? I gotta go. So I walked into this liquor store. I felt so sketchy. Like I was like 18 again with that fake ID I mentioned earlier. And there I was like making sure no one could like see me. It was so strange. And then I bought the bottle. I didn't even drink it. I brought it home and I put it in like a pile of laundry and I let it sit there and I watched it for about a week, knowing that this thing would probably kill my life I didn't know though, but there it is staring at me all week. And then eventually that fight just kept amplifying to a point where I just could not handle it anymore. Cracked the bottle. And the second, Matt, when I say it touched my tongue, it was like I could see the future. I could see myself in a wheelchair. I could see my skin changing. I could see my eyes getting yellow. And sure enough, that's all the things that happened.
So you went from there, you're like rationalizing that this is a lower concentration of alcohol.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to manage it and handle it. You're rationalizing, which we do. But you started relapsing long before that. You were in it 120 days. White knuckling people is when you don't actually resolve the underlying issues that you have and you just remove the chemical.
Yes.
It's very difficult. It's actually better. When I was in recovery, the psychiatrist looked at me when I checked in with the 25 staples in my forehead, and she said to me, you were dry for 11 years? It would have been better if you just drank and hit a bottom sooner.
Yeah.
It was a miserable 11 years.
That's wow.
Yeah.
What a thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow.
She was being honest.
How did you react to that?
I was unable to really react at that point. I had a busted wingtip vertebrae, which had I been 2 inches to the left would have been paralyzed from the neck down. 25 staples in my forehead. My face was ballooned out, and I was coming down off cocaine and alcohol. So I wasn't really thinking.
We're in
the
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Sure.
You were really in the clear head right at the moment.
I was. I wanted out of there. I didn't want to go. The only thing that got me in there was fear. I could have gone to jail, and I didn't want to go to jail. So here I was in recovery.
Fear is definitely a very high motivating factor going.
But the white knuckling people just don't. You have to get some help. You have to understand that you're going to need some support in this. You can't just stop and expect everything's going to get better. Oh, yeah. I stopped the chemical, right? Now everything's going to be good in my life. That's not how it works. In fact, it can become more and more difficult.
And it's like I said, amplified because all your senses are there. You're present. You're conscious. You don't have you're raw. You're raw and emotional. And if you're not doing the recovery work, the real shadow work, as they say, in yourself and your soul, like you're just going to suffer even more. It's just really got to pay attention to your sobriety as you're getting into it. And you want to do it the right way. You want to set yourself up for success, not for failure.
I didn't know who I was.
Right. Most people don't. Right. Most people don't, especially when you get sober. It's like such a daunting dilemma when you get sober, because you're figuring out who you were. I had to go through the last 10 years of my life and chalk it up as a loss, because I was like, what did I accomplish? I met my wife. That was obviously the one blessing. That was like, obviously the biggest of the one blessings. But the prime of my life was basically thrown to the wayside because of my lack of conviction.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It is difficult to be convicted to do anything that you essentially can't walk in your calling. You've taken yourself out and removed your ability to walk in a manner worthy of the calling with which you have been called. When you are drinking like that, you're numb, and you're numbing something that you can't deal with. And you end up, let's go back to you end up leaving 120 days, you drink again, you've got this vodka, now you're off the chains, right? So your wife is going to be pretty angry when she finds out. When did she find out that you started drinking again?
So same old behaviors, right? I was a big isolated alcoholic. I wasn't a party guy. I would drink in my room after she would go to sleep, and I would drink in like the side room and just get hammered by myself. So much so that I'd be waking up drunk still. So that's what inevitably happened. I would find I would get a big Smirnoff bottle, 1.25 milliliters, the biggest one they have, the cheapest one they have. And I would fill up Gatorade bottles strategically, and I would place them in spots that I knew she wouldn't frequent. So like cereal boxes, behind the toilet, my closet, whatever. She started finding them, of course, because when you're drinking and you're drunk and you're not thinking clearly, you don't even remember where you hid the bottles that you were trying to hide from your wife in the first place. Now it's like a game of hide and seek, but like the worst version of that game ever, because the winner is the person who gets to find the vodka, and 9 times out of 10, it's my wife. And yeah, there were some really, really touch and go moments there in our marriage where I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and I honestly, by the grace of God, do not understand why she stayed, but she could see that deep down I was a good person. I was just suffering, and she was such an empathetic person that she understood that staying is probably the better move here for Will and for our marriage, and she was right, and praise God, she was right. It's unbelievable.
Amen, bro. You are sober for these 120 days. Physically, do you change?
Yeah, you do. I lost 30 pounds. My skin was better, less of a yellow hue, I guess you would say.
What was your intimacy like with your wife? Did it change as well?
Yeah, so it was non-existent, Matt, up until the point where I got sober. That's, it's embarrassing to say that, but it's true. It's a big part. Alcohol really affects that part of, like, physically, and also mentally, emotionally as well, psychologically. So once I was sober, yeah, it improved for sure. But we were still very much resentful of one another because I slipped and I was off the wagon again. Except this fall off the wagon was I was going for broke. I was going for I hate my life. I hate this, and I don't want to live anymore. And I want to not be here anymore. And how fast can I do this? So I looked up, like, what is alcohol death like? And it said it's pretty painless. You get really, really sick, but you pretty much just die peacefully with meds and stuff in the hospital. And that's what I was going for, Matt. I was really going for it. I really lost touch in my soul. I lost touch with my purpose in life, and I lost touch with who I am, what makes Will. And that's a dangerous combination, my friend.
Wow. I'm trying to get inside your head in that 120 days and that moment that you snap, because before that you hadn't really decided, I want to die in a hospital due to alcohol.
Yeah.
But what gets into your head? Like, I think that you had a lot of shame that you were relapsing. Obviously, you had a lot of shame about your life, and that you had expectation.
Yeah, I had.
And that expectation seems to have really affected you.
Yeah, I wasn't living up to my potential, and I knew I had potential. I knew I brought something good into this world. I just didn't know how to express it. I didn't know how to create it. I didn't know how to voice it. I didn't know how to just make it. And I was suffering in silence, and I was suffering doing a job I no longer was enjoying because of all the XYZ. I keep saying that, sorry, but like all the reasons behind why teaching these days in 2026 is so difficult, and there's so many barriers that get in the way of authentic teaching, whether that be administration, parents, lack of respect from the children. It can go on and on. But
Did you have to hide booze at school?
Yeah, I was really, I was such a conflicted person, because I would never drink from 8 to 2. But oh my God, would I tell you, if I showed up hungover, or if I still had like the smell of alcohol in my breath, and I can only imagine how many students must have picked up on that, and that still is really hard to come to terms with, or my coworkers I was working with. No one ever said anything. No one ever brought it up. But back in 2022, I was teaching again, and I finally found a good spot, and I really enjoyed it. But I wasn't even able to stand in the whiteboard and do it. I would have to teach from my chair. And one of the principals caught wind of that and was like, "Will, like, you're doing a good job. Like, is everything okay?" And I looked really, really. They just knew what was up, because my skin was. I ballooned up to 265 pounds.
This is after the 120 days sober.
Yeah, this is after that. Yeah,
okay,
this is about a year and a half.
You can't hold a pen. You can't hold anything, a marker. You can't write on a blackboard.
I'm like just I can still teach the stuff because it's so in my head, and like it's just I'm just going and going, but it's as far as following up with like the prep, the grading, the getting lesson planning, the making sure I'm hitting the right Massachusetts standards, stuff like that. It was really, really difficult, and you cannot do that job under the influence. You got to be 100% to be a teacher. You can't half-ass it. It's not right. It's not right. You're doing a disservice to so many people, and so many, so much potential in a room, a classroom of all those personalities. It's so important, and I was not living up to the expectation that I should have, and I will have to live with that. But hopefully, what I'm doing now, advocating for this, speaking at I actually go and speak at schools now, believe it or not, as a former teacher now doing this. It's been a very, very wild and windy road, but yeah, we're finding purpose again.
Like you this is not the bottom. Like the bottom has a basement, and you're looking at going even deeper. You're going to dig a hole and just go all the way under. Okay, you probably got let go of from that job.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
I let go. I went right to the hospital. I mean, my bilirubin at that point was 33, 34, which is, it goes up to 40.
Off the rails. You're drinking nonstop, and now the school's like, he can't even stand. You end up going to the hospital basically right from this job. You're like, okay, I'm going to the hospital, and that's when they tell you, hey, your organs are failing. You have a couple weeks to live.
Yeah. They said. So it went down like this. It was Easter 2023. So April. I got transplanted on May 2nd, 2023. So it's April. I'm surrounded by family. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but every one of my family members could see me because I was so sick. I couldn't walk. I was basically in a wheelchair. My legs were like the size of, they were three times the size of my leg right now. Because all the swollen ascites, all the fluid build up, your organs aren't working anymore. So I was dying, and my family were coming up to me and basically like almost like saying goodbye to me, because that's how sick and deathly I was looking. And so sure enough, that night I just hit the floor, and I fell and I collapsed. So paramedics come, I get thrown into the emergency room, and I just didn't leave. But because you have to be 6 months sober, I was 4. When they gave me the diagnosis that I had liver cirrhosis, and it was end stage, level 4, that was the moment the doctors, we sat us in a room, and she looked at it was my mother, my father, and myself, and I'm in a wheelchair, and the team of doctors say, "Will, you have 2 weeks to live." And my mother just didn't believe it. My father just turned his head against the wall like he didn't hear it. And then it felt like the floor dropped out, and all I could hear was like that Charlie Brown kind of voice, teacher voice, like wah, wah, wah. And I was like, I can't believe my life's over. I didn't get to get married. I didn't get to have children. I didn't get to do the things that I wanted to do with my life. And I couldn't believe I was here dying at 35.
So you weren't married yet?
I was actually. Actually, I did get married. Sorry, let me rephrase. Right. I did get married. I just didn't have children. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I said that is because we went back to Brazil, where my wife is from, and we had the actual Catholic mass in where she is from, the northeast part of Brazil. So that's probably why I said that.
So new creation.
Yeah, exactly. We kind of redid it.
Okay. Yeah. So, and while you're in there, they tell you this, do you have a moment where you finally stop trying to control this and let go and say, okay, God, whatever it is,
yeah,
I'm willing to do it?
Yeah, so hospice came into the room, and my mother was just adamant. She said, no, he's not dying. But the doctors were saying, well, we can't transplant him. He hasn't been 6 months sober. He's only been 4. So, and there have been studies that have been done that say there's no correlation between someone who's been 6 months sober and someone who's been whatever, like 1 day sober, getting a liver transplant, and their success rate down the line, like if they'll drink again. There's no correlation there. I mean, it's just case by case basis. So, so they said, yeah, you have 2 weeks left. And then we started calling all over the country, my wife and everyone. We started calling different hospitals, trying to find someone that maybe would take like an intake or just a look at me. By the grace of God, the surgeon, or the doctor, that told me that she would not transplant me, like secretly was like, I thought a villain, but she actually was my hero. She actually made a call on my behalf, advocating for another surgeon that she helped train in medical school, who was out here in Western Massachusetts. She made the call. I followed up with that call, and then next thing I know, 6 a.m. the next morning, I was at UMass Memorial in Worcester here, and about an hour out from Boston, where I am. And she listened. She heard me. She heard my plight. I was so authentically, genuinely real about my drinking and my issues that like I just let it all out. And because I advocated that way, because I told her every single like transgression that I've ever had, she advocated for me, and she really pulled for me. And then next thing I know, I was listed, and next thing I know, I was being brought down in a gurney down to the hospital room to get a transplant. It took a couple of tries to get the transplant, because the organ were going to put in me was too big. So I had to go back up to my room to come back down. So I had to say bye to my father and my mother like 3 different times. And you can imagine how just the weight and gravity of saying goodbye to your loved ones twice, in case you don't wake up, which was very, very likely, because I was at a 40 mil score with a 2-week grave sentence ahead of me.
I can't imagine the third time. It almost becomes like satire.
Yeah, and every time they do it, they're sticking a needle. I'm not kidding, like this big, like all the way up, and then they're yanking it all out. Like it's just the whole thing. But
so you had this surgery.
I was grateful.
Were you? It's just that just blows my mind. The whole thing is, it's right in front of you. Like, you have to stop, but you've gotten to this point now. Do you feel like that telling the truth finally to someone set you free?
Yes, Matt. Finally, it's like the first step, right? Admitting that you're powerless over alcohol. That's how it felt. I said, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the weight, and my shoulders relaxed for the first time. I felt like me again, even though I knew I was about to perish. But I was hopeful, because now someone gave me a lifeline, a second chance. And did I deserve it? No. But by the grace of God, I was blessed with the second chance of life, and I took it and I ran, Matt. When I say I woke up after like a 22-hour surgery, I went to bed on Monday, woke up on a Thursday. I was so sick, and I woke up and you saw the pictures, how sickly I was. And then next thing I know, I look at my wife, and she's like, I'm alive, and I go, hon, this is I am changing my life. This is the moment where I change my life, and I'm just going to serve others instead of being self-serving. And I'm so sorry for what I put you through. And I love you. And on the sake of our marriage, I'll never drink again. And I'm proud to say that I've lived up to that. And with another little side to the story is that I drank myself not to liver failure, but also till kidney failure. And as I was rehabbing from the liver transplant itself, my stomach just burst. It just burst. And I went into septic shock, and they gave me a 4% chance to survive the night. And we were praying and praying and praying. And then one of the surgeons had a brilliant idea of just putting an emergency ileostomy bag, which is where they take your stomach, they separate it, and they shove it on the right side of your body. And then then you go to the bathroom that way. And I had that for 6 months. And my kidneys shut down. So I was on dialysis the whole time I'm rehabbing from the liver transplant. So I had to wait for that 6 months for them to reverse the ileostomy process, which is a huge surgery in itself. And then wait for another 6 months for to get the kidney transplant. So the whole time I'm on dialysis, every other day for 3.5 hours, getting blood taken, recycled through a machine, waiting, reflecting, writing, like just sitting in my skin, going through the steps of like, oh my gosh, like, oh my God, I cannot believe I did this. I can't believe I did this. Why didn't I do this? And just coming to terms with who I am in my transgressions and the things that I had to overcome with my shadow, like who I am, my soul, really doing that hard work. And I sat there in a chair waiting for that kidney transplant, and which I was blessed with on March 15th, 2024. So it's only been a couple of years, but yeah, I'm still processing it all, believe it or not. It's still, every day is a little bit different. And because of all the immunosuppressant medications they give you post-transplant life, they call it a new normal, because these organs are going to reject me forever. So I have to take just the right amount of medicine to make me just sick enough that my body doesn't reject the liver and the kidney.
And that's for life?
For life. So I can never, it's a constant thing in my head that I always have to have my meds on me, no matter what, wherever I am. And if I don't, it's really scary if you don't. There have been times where I lost my meds. I felt sick after a day. Yeah, it's really scary. And it messes with your head. You get all brain fog, hepatic encephalopathy, all that stuff. It still plays a major factor in my life. But holy hell, if I don't say if I'm the most grateful, luckiest person on the planet. My wife didn't leave me. I'm alive. I have air in my lungs. And now I get to talk to people like yourself, Matt, and on my own channel, and really advocate for just how ridiculously overrated alcohol is and how dangerous, truly dangerous it can be to the mind, body, and the soul.
It's a powerful chemical. It is, I think, the most dangerous of all the drugs. I know that when I was in recovery, people had an easier time coming down off heroin than they did the booze.
Yeah, that's true. I've actually heard that. I've heard that. Well, I work in I'm a licensed alcohol drug counselor. It's my new job now, believe it or not. And I do that. I do this every day. I counsel people people coming in with alcohol use disorder or heroin or crack cocaine, whatever their drug of choice is. And I get to talk to them every day. I get to speak with them and kind of see it and serve on the other side of the conversation. Instead of being the person, I'm actually the person on the other end of it. So it's really remarkable how it's come full circle like that.
Did you have a spiritual awakening in this?
Oh, yes. I sure did. Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that for a second, and when that happened and how it transformed you and your emotions and your outlook on life and your gratitude and all of that? Because you said now you don't want to serve yourself anymore. You want to serve others. And we know self-sacrifice is the greatest gift we can give. What does that look like? What did that look like?
Mm-hmm. So as I was saying earlier about when I went to septic shock on the 7th night of rehabbing from the liver transplant, I went to septic shock. It was touch and go all night. They did not think I would wake up. They thought I was going to die, 4% chance of surviving the night. So I prayed. I just prayed. I went through my head and I went through every single person that I wronged, every person I put beers in their tabs or stole money from or did something sketchy or just took advantage of. All those those things that we have as humans, those secrets that we keep, that we think that no one will ever know. We'll just bury. I went through each one of those secrets and I said, I'm sorry. Like honestly, I forgave myself. I forgave the person. I forgave, like, everything was just forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. And I just kept saying that. And I started to laugh, and I started to feel joy and like feel okay in myself and my soul again. And I could hear the doctors talking, but I noticed, like, as I got sadder and started to think I was going to die, I started to get further and further and down to the ground, which was a very weird phenomenon to feel it, because I've never had an out-of-body experience. I really didn't necessarily believe in like a higher power. I was so strictly inundated with just Catholicism as a young boy, and all the way up until the 12th grade. I went to CCD and everything, and getting back to my point, yeah, I started going down, down, down to the ground. And then as I started to embrace like love, compassion, like unconditional love, like just laughter, joy, empathy, just all the markers of what makes life so truly blissful and precious. Once I started to embrace those and laugh, and I started to notice, like, I started to get a little higher and higher and higher. And I'm in septic shock during this, mind you. And I'm going crazy, and my brain's all over the place. But I am very conscious of this feeling. And as I started to laugh and like embrace God, embrace like love and that source power, whatever you want to, however your religion is to you, whatever that is, whatever that is, right? I started to embrace it, and I felt its warm embrace, and I started to enjoy that this is a second chance, and that in my spirituality is now having a reckoning, and it's now coming to light, and to embrace God's blessings. And yeah, I think I have.
Yeah, a lot of grace in there for you and me.
Yeah, fierce grace.
That's the point. That's why you do this. You're called to speak to others about this because you have been saved, and you were saved by grace, and now you have faith. You still have a battle every day.
Yes.
You have a physical battle every day. Had you quit drinking early on, you wouldn't have all these health complications. But, I say oftentimes God has to almost break every bone in your body to wake you up.
Yeah. It's, my rock bottom was the thing that saved my life.
Me too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take it back for anything.
Yeah. That's how I feel. Wouldn't. I feel like, as much personal anguish and suffering and all of the wrongdoings I had to put people through and they had to endure because of me and on my behalf of my drinking and alcoholism. Mm-hmm. Would I have it any other way? I don't know, because all of those things, that was my journey. I feel like everyone's put on this planet and they have their story, and some are a little more bumpy than others, like mine was. But I needed that bumpiness. I needed that awakening. I needed to realize that this is my journey, and to embrace it, and to really reflect and be mindful of just how unbelievably lucky and blessed I am to still be here. So now what do you do with it? Tell people, help people, serve people, tell the truth, and always do the right thing when you can. Because sometimes we are human, right? We do make mistakes.
We all fall short of the glory, my friend. It's not easy to be perfect. None of us are. We all have sinful natures. Your flesh, you're never going to stop feeling that way. Well, I think it's really interesting, because when I went through this, I didn't realize that there was so much spiritual warfare happening all around us all the time. That we're in this constant battle against this world that we live in and what it feeds us. And it's so hard to stay out of the world, and we get trapped, and we are tempted by the world. And then once we act on that temptation, we isolate like you did. We do this thing we shouldn't be doing, and then we feel this immense shame, and then the fingers pointed at us again. How could you do that? And then you are in a cycle, and it's really tough to break that cycle. And that's why I believe we see so many addicts that hit a bottom, they die, or they end up in prison. This happens, and thank God that didn't happen to you. I'm so glad you're able to spread your message to all these people, and it is a powerful story. I know you just had to have another surgery, you mentioned before we jumped on this podcast. You are going through it right now. You are.
Yeah, yeah. So back in September, I had because I was opened in such invasive procedures as a kidney and a life saving ileostomy surgery and a liver transplant. A lot of openings. So what happens is your inner organs will start poking out of your abdominal wall that's now loosened. So I had like 7 or 8 or something like that, like a hernia. So they had to literally take my abdominal wall, put mesh underneath it, and then anything else like on the sides, they had to stretch it. So like my skin and mesh, like a whole thing. They call it a transversal abdominal release surgery. One of the most painful things I ever had to go through, almost more painful than a liver transplant. I'm not even joking. But I was so grateful. And by that point in this past September, I was already so well into my recovery and doing it well, and doing it earnest and honestly that like it just felt like just a little side path story, whatever you want to call it. But it wasn't going to break me. Like I've overcome too much at that point, but holy hell. Yeah. Not, I don't need any more. I would really appreciate no more complications medically. That would be great. Moving forward, but you never know. Each one I learned a little bit something, every time I
can imagine you don't want any more of that.
Yes, please.
What gets you through it? What gets you through this? You just said something interesting that you are motivated to keep going no matter what now. Why? Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I'm on borrowed time already, and every day, every breath is a gift. And why would we ever waste any of them? Feeling lousy or treating people poorly? Why? What is the purpose of that? I almost died. And at the very last second of almost being dead, I woke up and I said, life is awesome. I want to embrace this. I want to be a happy person. I want to be a joyful, soulful, loving, compassionate, kind person. This is all I want to do. I just want to make videos. I want to make a podcast. I just want to talk about recovery. I want to talk about whatever interests me. I just want to just explore what my passions are now and help. That's it. And I forgot that for most of my life, but here I am, lucky enough to realize it now in 2026.
Yeah. If somebody out there is listening, there's a lot of people in a dark place. I know when I went into recovery, didn't want to, they sat me down and they said, we know that you're in a really dark tunnel right now. You're looking down that tunnel and you don't see any light at all. There's nothing.
I've been there.
If people out there that are listening are in that place right now, what would you say to them, having been where you've been? How would you position their ability to come back from that dark place? What would you say to them?
I would say that the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. Because I was not willing to connect. I wasn't willing to be vulnerable. I wasn't willing to be open with my issue. I wasn't willing to find similar-minded people that got it. And a lot of that was denial-based. A lot of that was, I'll figure it out. Egocentric. I'll figure it out. Me. But nothing gets done in this life by yourself. It's a collaborative effort. And recovery is also a collaborative effort. So if you're struggling out there, if you've been listening to this and you don't want to have to go down the same terrible, traumatic past that I just showcased here, please reach out for help. There's so much support. The Samshire hotline is amazing. I tell people all the time, just call it 1-888-HELP. Okay, it's the best. If you're really stuck in a bad place, they'll pick up, they'll talk you through it, they'll talk you off the ledge, I'm telling you. And then they'll find some sources for you that live in your geographical area that will help you out. But another thing I always say to people is get your blood check, please. A CBC panel, get all those markers, all those things like your bilirubin, your ALT, AST, all your liver enzymes, all those things. Just get your blood checked. It's free. Just go down, see your doctor. No one has to know about it. Just see where you are, see where your levels are. If you're drinking too much, that way you'll have like a starting point of what you need to do with like a recovery centered nutrition plan or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Come out of denial. That's what's going to kill you.
Yes,
you live in that world of denial. Yeah, I did. I lived in it. It's hard to find an identity again. It's scary because you don't want to have to stop this life you've been living. It's very easy to remain comfortable. It's very, not comfortable, but just complacent. You don't want to feel the pain and have to go through the pain of changing, because
Yeah.
change is uncomfortable and it's scary. And that is really where leaders are made.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the trials. It's in the pain, through tribulation. If you don't have any tribulation, you're never going to build any endurance. And if you can't endure through these difficult times without the chemical, it's going to be tough to build any character. But in order to build the character, you have to have people that are going to support you, because addiction is so elusive and it's so dangerous, right?
Well said, Matt. You just nailed it, buddy. Like that. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Everything you just said, I couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah. One more thing. What about your family? Like, what's it like now?
It's beautiful, sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit of everything, Matt. But if I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that my relationships with my brothers are better, relationship with my mother is better, relationship with how we approach issues is a little more gentle, I'd say. A little more open. There's still a lot of kind of shame and guilt built into my journey, my story, what I do for a living now, talking about it all over the internet. But I'm doing more good than bad, and I feel like they can see that, and I think that deep down they're probably proud of me. I think so.